girlies, it is time for another round of Better Book It, so stay tuned. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. Better Book It is one of my little TBR games that I play, though this one is different from my other TBRs because it's not necessarily building a TBR for the next month. This is almost more like a challenge, a 3-day challenge. So I made this board game called Better Book It, and each of these circles represents a different prompt, though there are some that let me either skip to the end, start over, skip forward, go backwards. But the goal is to start at the beginning, get to the end by the end of 3 days. If I complete this in 3 days, then I get to take a reward, which is to remove one of my spins from my wheel of TBR, one of my base spins. If I fail, I have to add a base spin to my wheel of TBR. So at this point in time for this month, I've read a few books, but none of them have actually been on my TBR for the month. So I'm hoping that while playing this game, I can knock out some of my actual TBR for this month. It doesn't always work out that way, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera around. We're going to do our first roll to see what we get. Okay, I have Cedric here, my little gnomey friend. We're going to put him there. And I have my die. So let's roll and see what we get first. 6. That's a good start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a book with a beautiful cover. So let me check out my TBR and see if I have anything that I could use for that. Okay, so I have my TBR for the month here. And literally only one book stood out to me to have like a pretty cover, and that was The Savior's Sister by Jenna Morrissey. I think it's a really pretty cover, but this is a big book, like over 500 page, like 560 pages. So this one would take me quite a long time to read, and I want to give myself some kind of chance with this game. So I looked at These Books Will Self-Destruct, and nothing really stood out to me there. And so I went to my shelves up in the office, and when I did my TBR topple, the last shelf that I was working on, there's a very pretty book on that shelf, and that is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. And I think this is a really pretty book. It's got the sprayed edges and all of that. This looks like it's a little over 400 pages, but I feel like this will be a quicker read. So this is the one I'm going to go with. This says, for as long as Signa Faro has been alive, the people in her life have fallen like stars. Orphaned as a baby, 19-year-old Signa has been raised by a string of guardians, each more interested in her wealth than her well-being, and each has met an untimely end. Her remaining relatives are the elusive Hawthorns, an eccentric family living at Thorn Grove, an estate both glittering and gloomy. Its patriarch mourns his late wife through wild parties, while his son grapples for control of the family's waning reputation, and his daughter suffers from a mysterious illness. But when their mother's restless spirit appears claiming she was poisoned, Signa realizes that the family she depends on could be in grave danger and enlists the help of a surly stable boy to hunt down the killer. However, Signa's best chance of uncovering the murderer is an alliance with Death himself, a fascinating, dangerous shadow who has never been far from her side. Though he's made her life a living hell, Death shows Signa that their growing connection may be more powerful and more irresistible than she ever dared imagine. From New York Times bestselling author Adeline Grace, Belladonna brings to life a highly romantic, Gothic-infused world of wealth, desire, and betrayal. So, this is what I'm going to read, and I'll come back when I have thoughts. So, today has been a day. It's currently like 4:45, and I'm on page 120 of Belladonna. I'll tell you about that in a second. But let me tell you what has happened today. So, I don't know, around lunchtime, Xander and Brayden were doing the dishes, and I was sitting out back, and Xander comes out and he's like, "Hey, there's a problem with the water." And our faucet has this, like, the head of the faucet can, like, kind of stretch out so you can spray, like, around. And I knew that it had been spraying, like, right around the head of the faucet. And I figured it needed a seal or something. And so I thought that's what he was talking about. And I was like, "Are you talking about the faucet?" He's like, "No, there's a bigger water problem." He was like, "I was standing there doing the dishes, and next thing I know, I'm standing in a puddle." And I'm like, "Oh, crap." So I go in the kitchen, and there's water all over the floor, underneath the cabinet. Everything's soaked. There's like literally a puddle that's just pouring out. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So I had to call a plumber and had to have them come out and all that stuff. What it was is when you have the thing extended and you're spraying out and it's just spraying loose, like this just started. There's no leak, but they didn't have it extended out. They were just had the water running, and while it's up there, it apparently is still spray. It was still spraying all over the place, but it was just going down the faucet and under the sink, and so we got that fixed. And then like as they were leaving, because they were here for a couple of hours, and then as they were leaving, I had to leave because I had a doctor's appointment, a chiropractor's appointment. So I went to that, and then I came back and continued reading. But I'm just like, this day is getting away from me. Okay, so I think I'm about maybe a third of the way through this. So Signa, when she was like, I think she was maybe 2 months old, if that. She was a new baby, and her family was having a big lavish party. Her family was very, very, very wealthy, and something happened at the party. It was something in the wine or something, but everybody there, except for Signa, died, and that was pretty much the first time she escaped death in a way. It happened again when she was 5 years old, and I think it was she fell down some stairs or something and broke her neck and should have died, but then her bones popped all back into place and she didn't. And then again, 5 years later, something else happened and she should have died and then she didn't. And a lot of people near her, uh, she's kind of gotten passed from home to home, from different family members to different family members, because death ends up taking them. And people are happy to take her in. Well, sort of happy. They begrudgingly take her in, but they're happy to because she comes with money. Because, like I said, her family was very wealthy, and anyone that she's living with, they get money to care for her, which doesn't necessarily go to caring for her, but they get money for her being there, until she turns 20 years old and has access to her trust herself. And she's with, I think it was an aunt, her Aunt Magda, and Magda was not a very nice lady, but she was only 6 months away from turning 20 and being able to access her trust, and she just wanted Magna to live long enough. And then things happened, and Magna died. And I won't say what happened, but Magna died, and now she's having to go live with the Hawthorns in this sprawling estate. And it's a very old estate. They also have a lot of money, and because it's a very old estate, Signa, she can see ghosts and she can communicate with ghosts, and this is kind of the thing that's come along with escaping death. And she is aware that when she gets to the Hawthorne estate, that's going to be a big thing because it's an old estate, so surely there's going to be ghosts there. And she finds out that the wife, the mother of this household, passed away not that long ago. And the daughter has also like almost passed away. She's on her deathbed, and Cigna's like, okay, this curse is already affecting them, and I haven't even gotten there yet. But once she arrives, she starts. Well, because she can see ghosts, and she can also now communicate with death, like the being death. Uh, she's figured out that she can essentially summon him to her, because she can't die, like she can't seem to die. So she can do things that get her into that in between, but her body fixes itself or whatever. And so she can, like, she eats belladonna, and it puts her in that in between until her body gets rid of it and she's back to her full self. So she'll eat this belladonna to call forth death. And she has discovered that in this state, she has some of the same powers that death has. And she also is being called by Lillian, who is the wife, mother of this estate that passed away. She's called by her ghost. And her ghost reveals to her that she was killed, and that Blythe, the daughter, is in danger, and whoever killed the mother is also now trying to kill the daughter. And Cigna is going to try to figure out who did it so she can save Blythe. And that's what's going on at this point. I'm enjoying it. It's there's definitely some body like horror and about some gory kind of things when dealing with the ghosts. I will say that, like, I was kind of cringing at some things that were happening when she was talking to Lillian. It was disturbing. But all in all, I'm very much enjoying it, and this really is such a beautiful cover. Okay, I'm going to continue and I guess start figuring out dinner, because my plans for dinner also fell through. My friend that lives across the street, she is a chef, and I can order some meals from her. And I'm supposed to get a meal from her tonight. And when I was leaving to go to the chiropractor, apparently I passed her. I didn't even notice, but she wrote me. She's like, sorry I didn't stop. Apparently she got sent home from, she has another job as well. She got sent home from work because she was sick and she was like puking. And so she's like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do dinner tonight. And I was like, that's okay. So I got to figure out dinner because of that. So yeah. I have no idea what I'm going to do for dinner because I was totally planning on that. All right. I will come back maybe when I finish, or maybe when I get like another third of the way through. Or just at the end of the night if I don't finish it. All right. I'll talk to you later. Okay. It is 10:51 and I just finished Belladonna. This is really, really good. Really, really, really good. I'm giving it 4.5 stars. I don't know that there's really more to say than what I already said before. There was definitely some interesting twists at the end, and like finding out who was the one that was like poisoning this family, and other twists that I can't say, but I gasped. And what happens at the very, very end definitely has me wanting to like immediately read Foxglove, which is the next book. I'm so into this. Okay, 4.5 stars. Now I need to roll and pick my next book. Let me find a place to sit this down. Okay, so earlier I was taking a look at each of the spaces and my TBR, and I feel like most of these can actually be done by what I have on my TBR, though Once Upon a Book Club, I don't have one of those on my TBR, or middle grade, or nonfiction, and yeah, this is random. This one is stealing somebody else's TBR. But literally, I think every other space I can make something from my TBR work. So here's hoping that I get something that I can use and not have to add an extra book. Okay, that's still on the screen. 1. This is a romance. Okay, so I already figured out which book from my TBR I would use for this. I'm pretty sure it's the only romance in my TBR this month, and that is Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood. This is my required read for my coffee patrons, so I'm going to read this for romance. It says, A forbidden secret affair proves that all's fair in love and science, from bestselling author Allie Hazelwood. Rue Seibert might not have it all, but she has enough. A few friends she can always count on, the financial stability she yearned for as a kid, and a successful career as a biotech engineer at Klein, one of the most promising startups in the field of food science. Her world is stable, pleasant, and hard-fought, until a hostile takeover and its offensively attractive frontman threaten to bring it all crumbling down. Eli Kilgore and his business partners want Klein, period. Eli has his own reasons for pushing this deal through, and he's a man who gets what he wants. With one burning exception, Rue, the woman he can't stop thinking about, the woman who's off limits to him. Torn between loyalty and an undeniable attraction, Rue and Eli throw caution out the lab and boardroom windows. Their affair is secret, no strings attached, and has a built-in deadline. The day one of their companies prevails. But the heart is risky business, that plays for keeps. And I have loved absolutely everything I have read by Allie Hazelwood, so I'm sure this is going to be no exception. This was also one of my Book of the Month books. It looks like this is less than 400 pages. Yeah, 379. The text is on the larger side. So I think this is going to be a rather quick read. I definitely won't be finishing it tonight because, like I said, it's like almost 11 o'clock at night. But I might get started on it a little bit before I go to bed. Good morning. So I didn't end up reading anything last night. I actually watched a little bit of YouTube and then I just went to bed. And then this morning, I don't really know what happened. I somehow managed to turn off my alarm and then I overslept like a lot. I didn't get up until almost 11 o'clock. I can't believe I slept as long as I did. And then I did start reading Not in Love this morning, or closer to this afternoon, but yeah, this morning. And then I had the plumbing people show up again because they needed to do something like figure out where our septic tank was and all this other stuff because we have to get that pumped and get a quote on all of that. And so that took up a nice little chunk of my afternoon. So it is currently 2:43 and I just got to page 60. So I'm only like this much in. And at this point, Rue and Eli have met and they both are kind of into random hookups with people, and they both have this app. And she reached out to him on this app, and they met up at a bar at a hotel, and they were gonna, do their thing. And it kind of started out wrong because there was another guy there that was kind of hassling Rue, and Eli stepped in and made him go away. Turns out that was Rue's brother, and there's some issues there. I don't really know what those issues are exactly just yet. They don't end up doing anything. He takes her home, but there seems to be like a lot of chemistry between them. And Rue is big on not repeat meetups with people, but I guess she decides that in this case she would meet him again, and she gives him her number and they call it a night. But then the next morning, there's this big meeting at work, and all of the employees are brought in, and they're meeting this group. There's the 4 partners of this equity group called Harkness, and Harkness has just purchased a loan for the business that she works at, and Eli is one of those founding partners. And she sees him while she's standing in the crowd, and she's kind of like wigging out because he's the guy. And these partners are going to be interviewing the different people at her work. And when she shows up for her interview, he's kind of like thrown back because he didn't notice her in the crowd. And now that she's one on one with him, he's freaking out. And she's like, "This isn't going to happen. Lose my number." And kind of accuses them of trying to steal their company. That's all that's really happened at this point. Uh, I'm very interested in continuing. He also has some kind of issues going on, which is why he goes for these random hookups. But we don't know what those are yet either. I'm hoping I can get this done today because we didn't really move very far on the board to make a lot of progress. And I need to get through this and hopefully get some good rolls in. I'm hoping I can get this done and then we can start on another one today. That's my goal. So I'm going to get back to reading and I'll talk to you later. So it was after midnight when I finally finished Not in Love. However, I did love it. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I wish I had been able to get through it faster, but lots of distractions and stuff. Okay, so Eli and Rue, they're both kind of a little broken. They did not have necessarily the best childhood. And for Eli, the last thing he said to his mom before she died was he hopes that she's not as shitty as a mother to his sister as she was to him. And then just a few weeks later, she died. He found himself raising his 11-year-old sister. He was 25 and raising an 11-year-old. And they did not have the easiest time at it. They were both grieving, and he had no idea how to raise a kid. She did not make raising her easy. And yeah, it was hard for a long time for him. And he had other things going on too with academics and all of that. And he had to have 2 jobs. And eventually, him and his friends, they developed this group. Well, they did develop this group early on, like right out of college. But they developed this group which had eventually gotten to the point where they were making money and being successful, and he could afford to send his sister to any college she wanted. And by the time she came back from college, she actually wanted to live with him, and they've grown closer, and their relationship kind of healed. But he still lives with a lot of stuff. And then Rue also had a rough upbringing. Her mom had some mental health issues, and there was not always food for her and her brother, and she had to steal, she had to go hungry, she had to do all these things. And because of that, it kind of led her to do what she was doing. And she's a scientist. Her goal was to get away as quickly as she could from her family. And she went to college and all that, and had meal plans at school. And food is very important to her. And she kind of made food her life's mission in a way, and is creating this tech that wraps produce in a way that keeps it fresh longer. But she is dealing with a pretty aggressive younger brother. They because of their upbringing and everything, and there's a lot of turmoil there between them. And Rue, she's never felt like one to fit in, and she's always kind of been odd and standoffish. And a lot of people take it as she's unfriendly and doesn't like them, that she's a bitch. But really, she's just shy and awkward. And she doesn't want anybody to really get too close to her, other than like her best friend, or two best friends really, Florence and Tisha. So she does these hookups, and she doesn't repeat meeting these guys. And the day that she's supposed to meet Eli, who's supposed to be random hookup dude, her brother comes in and makes a scene. And they don't end up doing anything, her and Eli, because of all the stuff with her brother. And Eli is instantly drawn to her. And this is definitely a he falls first book for sure. But yeah, he's instantly drawn to her. And I think she's pretty drawn to him too. She feels more comfortable talking with him than she really has anybody ever, including her best friends. And she ends up telling him things that she hasn't even told her best friend. And she decides to make an exception of not repeating, and she gives him her phone number. But then the next day, she's at work, and there's this big meeting, and she's standing in the crowd, and who appears but Eli, as well as his three business partners. And there's this whole thing about they have purchased the loan from her, for her business, and they believe really what's going on is they're digging through all of this information and stuff to try to find a way to take control of the business so they can have Florence's tech. Florence is the one that owns this business and started it and all of that, and hired Rue as well as Tisha and a bunch of other people. And Florence has this biofuel tech that has potential to make a lot of money. And they have a loan for the business because they've had to, like, upgrade things and bring new people in and all this other stuff. So there's a loan, and whoever owned the loan before has sold it off. And this Harkness group, they purchased the loan, and now they're digging through everything to try to see if there's anything that Florence has misdone or whatever, so that they can claim ownership of this company. And that causes a lot of issues for Eli and Rue to be together, because Rue adores Florence. She counts Tisha, she's grown up with. She's known her whole life and loves Tisha. But Florence, she didn't meet Florence until after adulthood. And when she was I think a grad student, she started as an intern and all that stuff. And she's very close with Florence and cares very much for her. She tries to avoid things with Eli because of this, but she is also drawn to him. They're both just very much drawn to each other. And she feels torn, and she feels guilty because she adores Florence, but at the same time she doesn't want to stop seeing Eli. But this man, his company, is trying to steal Florence's company. And yeah, there's a lot of things that go along with that. But throughout it, we learn like why they're doing this, and other things happen, and it was a ride. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. Love it. Okay. It is now 8:37 in the morning. So I have a nice early start. I do have somebody coming out to like spray for mosquitoes here in just a few minutes. But I wanted to go ahead and get my next book picked out, because we need to get a move on this. Okay, so we've gone through 2 of our 3 days, and we're only on the second line, and we have to get all the way to the bottom of the 5th line. I'm a little concerned because we're not even to the halfway point. I need some really good rolls. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 would be terrible because that would have us start over again. 4, 5, 6 would be awesome because that's just free space pretty much, and we get to roll again to move forward. I don't really want 1 or 2 either, because 1 is a big book, and I feel like that would be all I could read today. I don't really want Once Upon a Book Club because I don't have one of those on my current TBR. Really, the best things to get here would be 5 or 6, because I don't have a middle grade on my TBR either. But middle grade would be not that bad. 5, I have something on my TBR, and 6 because I already said. All right, give me something good here. Can you see that? Oh, it's a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so middle grade. So not ideal because I don't have a middle grade on my TBR, but it should be a quick read, hopefully. So I'm going to see what I can find, and I'll come back and let you know. Okay, so I had a few different middle grade options on my These Books Will Self-Destruct shelf. I had, what was it? Briar and Jack and Rose, or Briar and Rose and Jack, something like that, which was probably the shortest one as far as page count goes. I also had the Beyonders book 2, which I just read book 1 recently. But I decided to go with The Wizards of Once, Twice Magic. This seems like it has more pages than the Briar and Jack and Rose one. But this has a lot of illustrations throughout. So, let's see. Looks like this. And I feel like because of that, like all the artwork throughout, that it'll be a quicker read than the other. The text is also on the larger side. It is, let's see, 381 pages. The other one's like 324. But I still feel like this was going to be the quicker of the two. I hope. I hope it is. So, The Wizard of Once is the first book, and this is the sequel. This says, I think I can read you this. This is once the story of a wizard and a warrior who had been taught since birth to hate each other like poison. But the wizard boy Czar and the warrior girl Wish were brought together in the Badwoods and now share a terrifying truth. Witches are on the hunt once more, and danger lurks behind every tree trunk. Czar and Wish's only hope is to find an ancient spell whose ingredients are scattered far across the land. Together they will have to trek through treacherous mountain ranges and sneak into a giant's hall, and if they can't learn to look past the hatred they've been taught, both wizards and warriors may be destroyed forever. Through remarkable illustrations and page-turning storytelling, Cressida Cowell invites you into a magical world brimming with possibility, adventure, humor, and heart. And I enjoyed the first one. I remember enjoying it. And I have a pretty good recollection of what happened in that first one. So, hopefully I can get through this quick. We have made it. No, we haven't made it to the halfway point. And I only have today. Today's the end of doing this. So, I have until I go to bed tonight to get to the end of this. So, yeah, I should get to reading. So it's about 2:30 in the afternoon, and I just finished The Wizards of Once, Twice Magic. This is such a cute story. I looked back to see what I rated the first book, and I actually wrote a review on it. So I gave the first book 5 stars, and I said, I read this with my son who just turned 12. So I'm talking about Xander. So this was like 6 years ago. He absolutely loved it and was sad for it to end. As soon as we finished it, he asked me if I would pre-order the next book in the series, and I did. This is such a cute story, and I'm curious to see what happens with Czar and Wish in the next book. 6 years later, I'm just now reading by myself the second book. Though I definitely think I should have Xander reread the first book and pass this one on to him as well. I think I'm going to give this one 4 stars. Czar and Wish are on a quest to find the ingredients for this spell to help get rid of witches. But things seem to be going too well their way, for good reason. 4 stars. Okay, let me turn this camera around and hope we get some big numbers. Okay, let's see. A 2 would let me have a sort of a free spin. I would not spin, but it's a free space. I get to like roll again. 4 would have me skipping to the end, which would be incredibly handy since this is the last day and I've maybe got 11-ish hours. Let's see. 1, small number, not super helpful, or 3, also small number, not super helpful. But both of these, I do have books on my current TBR that would work for this. Then we've got 5. 5, I do not have anything on my current TBR, so I would have to read something else because this is nonfiction. And then 6, I do have something. So I'm kind of hoping for a 2, 4, or 6, honestly. So let's see what we get. Oh goodness, oh goodness, oh goodness, oh goodness. Oh goodness. I got a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay, 6, very handy because, as I said, I do have a book on my current TBR that I need to read. Plus, it's a big number, which helps. Let's see. Looking at the board, I am going to have to read at least one more book after this, possibly 2 or more, depending on how the rolls go. But for LGBTQIA+, I am going to be reading The Black Flamingo by Dean Otta. This says, Michael is a mixed-race teen gay growing up in London. All his life he's navigated what it means to be a Greek, Cypriot, and Jamaican, but never quite feeling Greek or black enough. As he gets older, Michael's coming out is only the start of learning who he is and where he fits in. When he discovers the drag society, he finally finds where he belongs, and the Black Flamingo is born. Told with raw honesty, insight, and lyricism, this debut from acclaimed poet Dean Otta explores the layers of identity that makes us who we are and allows us to shine. So, this is told in like verse, so it looks like this should be a quick read, which is good. That gives me a chance. How many pages is this? 403 pages. Yeah. All right. So I think I'm going to get me some lunch because I haven't had lunch yet and get started on this. Okay, so it is 6:30 p.m. and I just finished The Black Flamingo. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a quick read. I enjoyed reading it in verse, and it pretty much followed the story of this boy from, being a young child and, wanting to play with Barbies and getting Ninja Turtles instead, or wanting a pink flamingo and getting a men's cologne instead. Struggling with fitting in with his multiple cultures. He's mixed Greek and Jamaican, and not feeling like he really fits in either world. Not necessarily feeling quite gay enough for the LGBT world, and just not feeling like he really fits anywhere. And when he's in university, he discovers the drag society, and this is where he really blossoms, where he really finds himself and finds that freedom to just fully be himself. And it was a really sweet story, and I very much enjoyed it. So now we're going to roll again. I do have a few hours left in the day that I can try to get this completed. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so let's see where we're at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I know I have something for this, and this. This would be a quick read. However, that would make it very likely that I wouldn't finish with my next roll. If I can get here, I might stand a chance if I can finish something quickly and then roll a 3 or higher. So I'm really, I think I would like to have a 6. Yeah, a 6 would probably be the best. 3 would be the next best. But I really, really want a 6. And can you see it? Yes, I got a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a like YouTube recommends or BookTube recommends. Oh, okay, let me see what I can find. Okay, so on YouTube I looked up quick reads and I found a video that Emily did, Books with Emily Fox, called 20 Short Books You Can Read in a Day, Reviews and Recommendations. And so I was going through and seeing what I could find. So a lot of the books that she mentioned are not ones that I own. So I just looked on Libby to see what I could find. And one of the first couple of books she mentioned was The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And looks like that. So I am able to get it on Libby. This is a 2-hour audiobook, and I typically listen to it sometimes just under 2 times speed, sometimes over. It just depends on the narrator. So this shouldn't take me too terribly long. It's now a little after 7, and I do have to figure out food because I haven't eaten dinner yet. So I need to do that. So I can hopefully get through this quickly, and then we can do one more roll and hopefully end the game. Fingers crossed. Well, it's almost 8 o'clock, and I just finished The Metamorphosis. That was an interesting book. It starts out with this man named Gregor. He wakes up, and somehow in his sleep, he has been transformed into a giant beetle-like bug. And his parents are like trying to like wake him up, get him to go to work. He's already late. His sister's trying to wake him up in the room next door. She starts crying. One of his bosses shows up because he's late for work, and eventually he's like not really sure what's going on. And for a while he manages to get out of bed, but he gets stuck on his back, and he's like trying to like wobbling side to side, trying to flip back over. And eventually, through a lot of hardship, he manages to get to the door and unlock it because he had it locked. And of course, everybody kind of freaks out, and his boss runs off, and nobody's understanding anything he's saying. He understands them, but they don't understand anything he's saying. And for quite some time now, Gregor has been the sole breadwinner for his family. He's been taking care of his parents. He's been taking care of his younger sister. He's planning on paying for her college, all of this stuff. And now he is a giant beetle. And it starts out with, they're all kind of freaked out, and they manage to like close him up in his room. And his sister cares for him for a little while, bringing him food and things like that, though she doesn't want to see him, so he kind of has to hide away from her. And over the course of time, he becomes more and more neglected, and his family becomes more and more resentful, and they're struggling because they're having to go to work, and they're having to do things for themselves. And then eventually he dies. That's the story. Apparently this was written in like, I think it said 1950 or 1915. Let me see. It sounds like it said 1915. I think I'm going to give this 3 stars. Yeah. Okay, so now we need to do at least one more roll. Okay. We do not want a 2. Really, I want a 4 or higher. 1 would be a TBR vet. 3 would be a mood read. 4, 5, or 6 means I win. The only thing I really don't want is a 2. Please, anything but a 2. Come on. Oh, I'm so nervous. Okay, that's a 4. Can you see it? It's a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Woohoo! We did it. We did it. We did it. Okay, I am so happy with how this turned out. I feel like I read a good bit. I read a couple of things off of my actual TBR for the month and a couple of things that weren't. I read Belladonna by Adeline Grace, and this was off of my shelves upstairs. Then I read Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood. My cover's still in the living room from reading it. This was part of my TBR for the month. Then I read The Wizards of Once, Twice Magic, and this was on my These Books Will Self-Destruct shelf. Also, I mentioned having read this to Xander, and he was like, oh yeah, that was such a good book. So I think he'll want to read this too. Then I read The Black Flamingo by Dean Otta. This was part of my TBR for this month. And then I read The Metamorphosis, which was weird. And not anything that I own, but something that YouTube recommended. Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you. Bye!